This video is to talk about how an intelligence agency or expert in disinformation, propaganda, and counterintelligence would go about targeting the 9/11 truth movement and destroying it, or at least preventing it from impacting the public's opinion on 9/11. Edward Bernays was the man who wrote the book on propaganda, and he also wrote a book called Crystallizing Public Opinion, which Nazi propaganda minister Joseph Goebbels used to keep in his back pocket at all times. Walter Lippman expanded upon many of these theories, but these books were written back in the 20s, and the CIA have expanded upon and streamlined and weaponized nearly all of them. We're going to talk about the ones that directly apply to the 9/11 truth movement. The first and most important is what Walter Lippmann calls proof by stereotype, which is a way to win any argument without having to present facts or evidence. The first step is to create a stereotype. So you create a stereotype of what a conspiracy theorist is, and promote that as a collection of what all the others in that group believe. The trick is to associate all sorts of other disinformation and ridiculous theories in along with the real theories to not only confuse potential researchers, but also to make a mockery out of the factually based conspiracy arguments. Basically, they have the mass media tell you that this is what a conspiracy theorist is. They wear tinfoil hats and they believe in Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, and that NASA faked the moon landings to beat the Russians in the Cold War. But this goes much deeper within the 9/11 truth movement itself, and the tactics are much more specialized. You're always going to find these hardcore debunker types who sit online all day debunking conspiracy theories and don't have jobs. And you're going to really have to wonder sometimes if the government is paying them to do this, because they intentionally avoid arguments that they know they can't win, and they use psychological tactics like repeated denial, where they repeat the same thing over and over again to try to get you to believe that it's true. Although it does make sense that the perpetrators of 9/11 would hire intelligence agents to cover up for their crimes, I find it more likely that these morons on YouTube are just victims of disinformation and brainwashing regarding 9/11, and that they do it for free because they honestly believe that the debunkers are right, or that the people asking the questions are terrorists, or maybe they're just negative attention whores and they like fucking with people. But then I'd be making up stereotypes, and calling anyone who disagrees with you a CIA agent is no better than this. I think that the CIA would have realized by now that this tactic doesn't work, as the existence of multiple professional debunkers on the internet at any given time only makes a cover-up more obvious and makes people suspicious, especially when they keep losing arguments and don't look up facts. And this effort has essentially backfired on them, as it forces the people out there to do better research in order to have better arguments. I would not be the 9/11 truther that I am today if it weren't from all those long arguments with debunkers, where I was forced to go and do more and more research to understand the real facts behind what I was talking about and make my arguments better and research more information and whatnot. The debunkers tried to use ridicule as a first step in order to scare the newcomers away. Harassment and name-calling seem to work better than having scientific arguments where they know they will lose. Instead, they will just try to tell you that you're an idiot and that you must not understand science because your physics doesn't agree with their perceived version of reality. And they're too close-minded to step outside of that, so they use some rather interesting tactics to target the 9/11 scientists, and here's how they've done it essentially. On one hand, we have legitimate scientific research and investigations into 9/11 done by Stephen Jones of Scholars for 9/11 Truth and Justice, and Richard Gage of Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. Then on the other hand, you have people who will send you full-page letters with a bunch of total and utter bullshit regarding micro-nukes being used to demolish the World Trade Centers. There was absolutely no evidence of radiation found in the World Trade Center dust study conducted by Eric Schwartz of the EPA. I mean, this study did find evidence of an organic compound called 1,3-diphenylpropane, which is a byproduct of nanothermite gel, among other things. Could have been, but we also have Judy Wood with her theory that a space laser destroyed the World Trade Center. Never mind that this would require an impossibly enormous laser to destroy a building this large, and how they get it to crack at that middle point unless it was a controlled demolition. I hear a lot of arguments against controlled demolition that say, oh, why did it start with a plane impacted? Well, controlled demolition has the word controlled in it. That means that they can control the way a building collapses. So Despite the obvious problems with the paper she co-authored with John Hutchison, another quack, she has a specific section on her page devoted to debunking thermite and explaining all the evidence for thermite away by trying to say that this space laser weapon caused all of the phenomena that one would usually associate with thermite. It's a completely laughable idea for any serious scientist, but it catches a lot of researchers who don't know any better. Which brings us to the mother of all 9/11 counterintelligence operations, the no-planers. We're not going to discuss any of these theories on this forum. If you want to discuss the no-plane theories, there's a guy, CNN 911 Fakes. You can go to his channel. He's got all the videos on it. You can just watch them and discuss it there. Don't discuss it on my channel. I'll delete your comments. Since the two key points that debunk the official theory are the fact that there is absolutely no evidence of a 757 hitting the Pentagon with the 15-foot impact hole and whatnot, and the fact that World Trade Center 7 wasn't hit by a plane, yet it collapsed anyway at 520 free fall speed. So obviously when you start talking about missing planes, you draw the 9/11 argument into a gray area, which is important for the stereotype of conspiracy theorist. Conspiracy theorists only look at gray areas where the littlest facts are known. This is a direct quote from Jim Meigs of Popular Mechanics. Counterintelligence has taken this a step further by infiltrating the 9/11 truth movement with a variety of propaganda films. Screw Loose Change and the spoof documentary Spare Parts are obviously some sort of cointel propaganda, but films which promote no planes, TV fakery, and the Jews did 9/11, these videos seem to be part of something more sophisticated, and I would like to share my own analysis with the 9/11 truth movement as a whole, and you can debate this in the comments below. September Clues, 9/11 Octopus, and 9/11 Missing Links, etc., and clone account spammers like WC and Simon Shack and others seem to be totally alone inside the 9/11 truth movement in their views and opinions. Yet they are the ones who get on radio or TV to debate these 9/11 conspiracy theories with the mainstream. I saw one kid with a September Clues t-shirt on at the 9/11 rally at Ground Zero last year out of a crowd of about 20,000 people, and he got incredibly nervous when I glared at him, and he didn't seem to be there with anyone. Yet the media portrays these fringe nutcases as a representation of the entire 9/11 truth movement as a whole. So here's why they do that. These are what we call drones, and their main purpose is to pretend to be real 9/11 truthers with real views, but portray a false image or stereotype of what people will identify a conspiracy theorist with. Just like you have a preconceived notion of what a dog or a bank is, you don't need anyone to tell you what these things are, because you already know what that is. You have a preconceived notion of what these things are, and no one needs to tell you what they are. So when Mr. Joe Ordinary meets a 9/11 truther on the street who tells him there's no evidence for a plane at the Pentagon or in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, he immediately identifies this with the stereotype of you also not believing that planes hit the Twin Towers. When you get around to mentioning Building 7's collapse and the fact that it wasn't hit by a plane, further resonates within their reasoning that you are just like that guy on TV who already got proven wrong by all those experts. And this is what we call, literally, proof by stereotype. He doesn't need to prove you wrong. You've already been proven wrong by all those experts that he saw on TV. Besides which, he's morbidly afraid of you actually being right or admitting that he is wrong. So you're always wrong, no matter what. Even if you provide evidence, he doesn't need to look at it because NIST and dozens of independent scientists already looked at it and wrote a 10,000-page report, which they've probably never even looked at. And I'm going to post a link to the Walter Lippman paper on proof by stereotype in the description to this video. Please look over it and do your own research on propaganda and proof by stereotype so you can recognize when this approach is being used and how to expose it and break down those stereotypes. The best thing to do when arguing 9/11 is stick with the hard facts. Avoid gray areas completely. I hope this video and my channel help people out there understand the 9/11 truth movement, what we're about, what the lies are, what the disinformation is, and what we're up against in order to get our message out there to the mainstream. So please don't forget to rate 5 stars, subscribe to my channel, and questions, comments, you know what to do.